preliminary data was released this month, including data on population, race, and housing occupancy. So the presentation tonight in front of you is to update you kind of high level on what we know so far and what we need to do with that information. The 2020 census marked the 24th census in US history. This was the first time that we were able to respond to the census online. The population of the US metro areas grew by 9% from 2010 to 2020, with 86% of the population living in those areas. The map on the screen here shows the population change in North Carolina since 2010. You have the brown areas, meaning a loss of population, and then the teal areas show a gain in population. More than 78% of North Carolina's population growth over the last decade occurred in the Charlotte and Raleigh metro areas, while more than half of the state's counties actually lost population. Charlotte itself grew about 19.6%. This is a graphic from Union County that was done in, I think, 2018. At that time, they projected 242,474 residents. Their actual 2020 number came in at 238,267. The county grew 18.37% over the last 10 years, which brings us to Waxhaw. In 2010, our population was 9,915. In 2020, the population was 20,534. This is 108.5% growth over the last 10 years. This next graphic compares Waxhaw to some of the larger municipalities in Union County. You have Stallings with a population of 16,112. They grew about 16%. Monroe, 34,562. They grew about 5%. And then Indian Trail is close to 40,000. That grew about 19%. And then I show Waxhaw again with our 108% growth. How do we compare to other municipalities in the state? This chart shows that we are the 9th fastest growing municipality in the state. And notable here is we're the only municipality over 10,000. Now let's take a look at our race. Our Hispanic population grew about 188%, and our Hispanic and Black population are about 8% of our total population. And then we have our Asian and Pacific Island population that grew 601%. This information can all be viewed on the census website. It's broken down to census blocks and tracts. We're still in the process of downloading some of this information into our GIS system so we can see the municipal boundaries and the roads. But I took a screenshot here outlined in black as one of our census tracts showing it's probably the Millbridge area, grew about 125%. And then the race and ethnicity growth is there as well. So what does this all mean? With all this growth, we need to continue to analyze and survey the wants and needs of our residents. My predecessor here, Town Manager Jeff Wells, along with the planning staff and this board, did a great job in realizing the changes needed to our land use plan map, which is our land use goals and objectives, and then the changes to the LDC to implement and regulate that land use plan map. Through their growth strategy initiatives, which included public input surveys, public meetings, they came up with 4 themes to improve traffic congestion, maintain small town charm, increase opportunities for local commerce, and improve bicycle and pedestrian connectivity viable to destinations. They also realized our property tax revenue was imbalanced with our high number of residents compared to our non-residential parcels, which demands a very high cost to serve. The four themes in the residential tax imbalance called for a coordinated solution that could address all these issues together. Growth areas were created and strategically placed to attract a specific blend of land uses. And this is how we came up with our future land use plan. By having this plan, we can now, which I think you guys adopted back in March, we can now facilitate employment growth in key areas. We can plan for future transportation projects, including the Waxhaw Parkway, keep more trips local and support the local commerce, and then again, diversify that tax base and housing stock. I wanted to bring this all forward again because the work is obviously not done. While keeping in mind our goals, we need to continue partnerships with outside agencies, including NCDOT, CRTPO, and Union County. We'll need to discuss the planning areas around our borders to make sure that road connections are made. We'll need a long-term plan for water and especially sewer. We'll continue to need survey our folks, considering how many new residents we have. Dina will stay busy with our future Parks and Rec plans to make sure that we are keeping up with the demand. And then we'll continuously have to update our CIP that you all approved for the first time this year. So as more data comes in, we'll keep you updated, but the future is bright in Waxhaw. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Lisa. That's really a lot of information. It looks like, if I recall right, we are now moved up into the number 3 position as far as size of communities behind Monroe and Indian Trail. I think we beat Stallings. I think they're almost out of their growth opportunities there. They're at 16,000. We're a little over 4,000 greater than that. So that's recognizable, and certainly all the more reason to have a plan and follow the plan. So applauds to this board as well in taking on that last year and putting our growth strategies together along with our LDC so we can have that playbook to follow. I get a lot of comments as I'm out in the communities. A lot of people really do understand that we have to have a plan in place, and they recognize that, and they see some of the changes. So we need to continue on that path. We have grown. We are no longer the small little sleepy town that we once were. When I moved here in 04, I think that population was maybe 5,500. So it's grown quite a bit. So it's great that we are now tracking this, and we're doing it on a frequent basis rather than before being surprised and capsized. And so appreciate that effort. I want it to continue, at least from my own personal standpoint, and it'll really help all of you start to make decisions in the future. So any comments from the board on this? All the way across. Jeff, I see your mic is open.
Yes, just one comment. Excellent presentation given the current lay of the land here in Waxhaw, and I just want to mention how proud I am of town staff and the board for taking on this hard task of recognizing the growth and planning for it. We're ready for the future.